Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people, living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow. Hello, folks. I'm Harry Greenberger, the host of this show on behalf of the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association. And we've got something that I think you all will find very interesting today. My guests are Mary Beth Ellis, who is the minister of Unity of New Orleans, and Bob Tucker, who is the chairman of the board of directors of Unity. Now, those of you who live in New Orleans have probably driven past your church, I will call it, on St. Charles Avenue for many decades. It's a beautiful contemporary building, which I have, I've seen through the years, but I never knew exactly what went on at Unity. Well, just very recently there was an advertisement in the newspaper, and this is what I read: Unity of New Orleans Spirituality Center. And then underneath that you say, yoga, meditation, healing, science of being, a course in miracles. And I want to know about all of those things. So the show is yours.
Thank you so much, Harry. Yes, we've got all sorts of exciting things going on because we've got all sorts of people in the church who are very interested in all these things, and people in the community too. And this all goes along with the Unity teachings. There's no dogma with it, but we believe in all paths lead the same place, basically, that truth is truth. And whether we find it in yoga, or recently we had Dr. Jeffrey Long come and talk about near-death experiences from his point of view. He's an oncologist. And we had Buddhist monks come last week or 2 weeks ago from India. We've had so many things like going on, and Katrina Zak teaches yoga. She spent time in India on Saturday mornings, and all these things just help people access all that they can get out of life.
I want to hear about all of that, but you said truth is truth. How do you determine what is true?
I think that is something that you all probably do a great job of as humanists. Truth is, of course, individual. I mean, we all have our own ideas of what truth is, but there are perhaps certain things that most people do agree on, like maybe honesty and love and forgiveness, and certain things that we as a civilized society probably do agree on are ways that are better to live by, certain tenets.
Well, people ask us, since you do not accept an all-wise entity, how do you have morals? How do you decide what's good and what's bad, and what's true and what isn't? Well, we rely upon those things which can be factually demonstrated. And regarding morality, through the years, through the centuries, certain acts have resulted in good results, and other acts result in bad results. And so we say, do the good ones and don't do the bad ones. That's the source of our morality. It has not been handed down to us from above, as yours might have been, but it satisfies our sense of reliability and what can be proven and what can't be proven. Now, yeah, Bob.
Yeah, that's probably where we depart somewhat.
We do part.
Yeah,
Yes,
because love, for example, I believe to be true, and many of us believe to be true, but there's no demonstrable way that you can put your hands on it. But that's what allows us to be able to function as individuals. What's for me, and true for Mary Beth, and true for you, may go in several different directions. But I think that where we are in the world today is more of a need, both for truth, but also for tolerance. Tolerance of what other people believe and feel and how they approach life. But let me go back to the building, because you said that that was what kind of garnered your attention as you drove by.
Through the years,
yeah,
of course.
And it's been there for several years, probably 80 plus. Not quite that long, but at least six decades or so. Some people characterize that building as a flying saucer church when they would pass it.
Well, it's very contemporary.
To some extent, and it is architecturally contemporary and so unique. The church was designed by Spangenberg, who was the disciple of Frank Lloyd Rice. And the unit got started, interestingly enough, literally in the upper room of Rapp's luggage store on Canal Street in those days. It was for folks that came together out of this so-called, at that time, New Thought movement that was emerging around the country. Dr. Ruth Murphy was our first minister. She was 1 month short of being 101 when she passed. And then she was succeeded by her daughter, Dr. Ruth Elmer, and now Mary Beth. And we've had 3 ministers in the existence of the church, all of whom have been female. And Dr. Elmer is approaching where our mother was, still alive. Great bloodline, man, in that family. But that church is architecturally significant, but it's also significant to the extent that it moves a wee bit away from the mainstream in terms of some of the concepts, the theology, to some extent even the dogma.
And is Mary Beth going to be the minister till she's 101?
Gotta ask her.
She says I'm not already.
All right. Well, listen, I still hear about your involvement with healing and the science of being and A Course in Miracles. I want to hear about all that.
Well, the Course in Miracles is really just taken off worldwide, and basically what it is, it's a lot like Eastern philosophy. It believes in the oneness of all life and the fact that most of what we perceive is illusion. Maya, they call it in the East, and New Thought, of course, came out of the East, and so they're very much the same in that regard. And people, I think, in this day and age are gravitating toward these kind of things instead of away from church dogma in the traditional churches and toward more spirituality. There's so many people that say I'm spiritual but not religious.
Yeah, people say, I have never understood what that meant. Can you explain that?
I think that they don't believe in any particular dogma or creed. There's nothing they're pinned down to, but that they're searching for something that is above and maybe beyond or different from what we consider materiality, that this materiality is impregnated with some other kind of energy. And they don't know what it is exactly. Some people call it God or Brahman, whatever. But they're searching. I think that might be the difference, is they don't believe in any one thing, but they're open to what other possibilities, like
All
you
right,
all.
but a search, or do they spend their whole life searching and never find, or are they searching and they find something?
I think a lot of them are finding things. I think so many have been to India searching and spent time in ashrams, and I think.
And you're saying that there are answers in the Eastern religions?
Well, I personally do. I'm Buddhist.
All right,
And-
Bob, how do you stand on Eastern?
I'm Christian, but not in the fundamentalist sense, if you will. Fundamental being that where there's an taint of politics stuff into that definition. But I'm Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the Bible. And those are all tenets of what happens at Unity also.
All right, but for some reason you did not affiliate with traditional Christian churches.
I've been in. My father was an African Methodist Episcopal minister, and I was in what I will refer to as kind of conventional, the Protestant religion.
Okay.
I gravitated toward Unity, however, because I didn't want to be hustle for money every Sunday. I didn't find it necessary that I would have to dress a certain way, and that I didn't want to be a part of a style show. And I'm not being critical of the entire conventional or religious sect, but on the other hand, there are some churches where that becomes kind of the norm and the expectation. Unity is an interesting facility in a religious sense, and that is that there are people that still belong to conventional churches that come to visit for a kind of, I guess, a little bit of a way of taking another route just to see what else is happening.
Okay.
And I think people should visit other faiths and other religions. And the great thing about New Orleans, and maybe not so much so in the United States nowadays, but certainly in New Orleans, has been our ability to blend this big pot of gumbo spiritualism and religious differences where everybody can kind of get along. If not get along, it certainly move along as we go through our various faiths and what we believe in. So, but I found Unity works for me. It works for a lot of other people. And I also will attend regular churches from time to time.
All right. Well, the traditional churches always pass the plate, to get money. And my opinion is that most of the pastors, the leaders of traditional churches, including Catholic Church, are in it for the power and the money. Where does your money come from?
Our money comes from people. We do pass the plate, but nobody will ever, like in many churches, ask you to pledge a certain amount. You're a member, so we expect you to tithe 10%. I have never, in the 25 years or so I've been involved with the Unity, I've never had anyone ask me for any money.
I see.
And nobody does that. It's just, it's passed around. If people feel like they would like to support the church, they can, and they do, and that's how we...
And you have
Right.
adequate funds for whatever you need to do.
Interesting point that you make, Harry. Unity is officially and legally called the Society of Practical Christianity. And it's practical because what is taught there works for you the other 6 days of the week as opposed to just Sunday. And we have on occasion, over the several years that I've been in Unity, there will be someone that will pass. And in church, we will receive something from an attorney or from the person's estate saying, here's a check for X amount for the continuation of what you do at Unity, because Unity has made such a difference in my spiritual life, but also in my material life. Because we believe that, thoughts are things, words have power, and that you can, in fact, as you grow, manifest spiritually and manifest in a material sense. So to answer your question, we operate off membership, putting money into the plate, but as Mary Beth has indicated, it's not a hammering, it's not you got to give more. You got to give it for this and for that. And so I think that's a little bit of a distinction for us.
But now, is this a national or an international organization that you're a part of?
No,
the
we're
Unity?
independently. We're totally, the church owns the real estate. The church owns the building. The church is not affiliated with any national hierarchy of
So you're autonomous.
Exactly.
But are there Unity churches in other places?
Yes. Yeah. There's one in Metairie, for example, in all of the United States.
But they're all autonomous. They're not part of a larger.
Some of them are part of a larger organization.
But you are not.
Yeah. No, we're not. You've heard of Unity Village in Missouri.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Some have, yeah.
Well, I'm still not through. You list here the science of being. What is that?
Science of Being is a Sunday school class where we study Eugene Ferson's book, and it is a very, as Bob mentioned, practical Christianity. It's very practical ways to apply the spiritual teachings in our lives so that we can be more effective people, we can manifest more on the material plane, as well as manifest what we call the Christ consciousness, which is the same as in other religions, maybe in Hinduism, the Krishna consciousness or Buddha consciousness, but it's this certain being one's higher self. It's very spiritually evolved way of being, and that's what the book is talking about, is how can we be this higher being and manifest this higher energy.
And you feel that you can be an entire being.
Without a
complete.
doubt. Without a doubt.
And so you're assisting people to be more complete. Am I understanding this?
Yeah.
Be more what they already are. We all have that in us, and we're just not all able to manifest it. Our society tells us so often, you're not enough, you're not this, you're not that. And,
Yes.
And the whole thing is to try to realize that we have infinite potential, and we can manifest it, and we can help others
Yes.
better when we do.
Well, what you just said is not that far from what our secular humanists
Sounds that
feel,
way.
That we should live full, rewarding lives and include in those lives those things that can give you some happiness and pleasure, so long as we allow other people to do the same thing.
Exactly.
We're not, and I personally, I have no problem with religious people. My problem is with the people who run churches, whom I generally do not admire.
We do also believe in the afterlife, as Mary Beth indicated. We
Yes.
had Dr. Jeffrey Long, who's a New York Times best-selling author, to bring the truth lesson to us and also to participate in a wellness forum that we do. He has interviewed over 4,000 individuals who've gone through the near-death experience. We've heard of it and read about it, and his book is quite enlightening in that regard.
Yes, well, no, but you said the right word, near death.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't dead.
Mm-hmm.
However, this month's issue of National Geographic, and their cover is devoted to life after death. When are you dead? And they have some interesting material in there that they used to say, if your brain was dead, you were dead. Now they say, not so. If your heart's still beating, they can bring your brain back. And this whole issue is dedicated to when are you dead? But at some point, you are.
Yeah.
At some point, everything in your system has stopped functioning, and from our point of view, that is the end. From your point of view, that's the beginning, right?
That's well put, yeah.
All right, well...
And the people that he interviewed were people who had been declared to be medically dead, and using the definition that the physicians use, that when there's nothing here and there's nothing here. I understand what you're saying, is that is a determination to some extent that you can go back in and resuscitate is too trite a word to characterize what is happening.
Well,
in that
to
regard.
continue, it's not even resuscitate, it's continuing their life.
Yeah.
But still, you use the word near death, which means not yet dead. I am not convinced that anybody has been totally, completely dead and come back to talk about where they went. That I'm not convinced that is that.
We'll
that,
share some of those interviews. One of the
All
things I'd
right,
like to
well,
point out also, I know that the time is getting limited.
That's all right.
That is that we also do a wellness forum once a month, and that's as a way of helping members and friends who attend to kind of enlighten themselves on everything from the water that we drink to what we put in our bodies to if you got insomnia problems, if you got problems with depression, where we'll bring in speakers who have some knowledge on it. We have a person that's coming in the next couple of wellness forums who's going to talk about breathing. You know, how do we breathe and how do we use breath to help reduce stress? You know, most of us are not breathing except we hold our breaths, a lot of us. So that's an example of some of the kinds of topics that we cover in the wellness forums that we do once a month.
Do you get pretty large size audiences for your
Interesting,
events?
yes, that's a good question. It's growing. More people are coming in and saying, well, you know, I had this issue. We had a naturopath who approaches life differently than a regular physician.
Yes.
Who gave us some really enlightenment on GMOs and the water that, I won't get into all that, but how bad the water can be that you drink and what we ought to be doing.
Yes, I don't doubt that we may have a drinking water problem, but yesterday we had a water problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't from drinking. It was a different kind of water problem.
And when
All
Dr.
right,
Wong was there were about 100 people there. When the Buddhists came a couple of weeks ago, there were 200 people there. So people are responding.
and your facility can accommodate 200 people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And how do you get the word out of your, open to the public events?
Gambit ad, Natural Awakenings ad, Twitter, Facebook, a wonderful website.
Okay, well,
Facebook. Gosh, it seems like all the younger ones are just getting it out everywhere, and people come and tell us they've seen it all sorts of places.
when you mentioned Facebook and those things, I'm too old for that. But the younger people are the ones who are not going to the traditional churches.
Correct.
Churches are losing
Yes.
attendance,
Fast.
mostly from the younger people.
Mm-hmm.
I have often wondered why we didn't have some really active secular student groups at our universities. We got lots of universities here. And I'm told that the people of that age and the ones who are concerned with, going to classes and taking tests just don't even bother to think about religion. Have you run into that at all?
Yes.
That they just, it's not a subject that they take their time on.
It's an interesting dilemma for young folks. They have so much on their plates and they're so caught. I think it's a double-edged sword to all of this social networking and that stuff. I won't even get into that. We're going to have to teach kids how to write and how to read again because they text and they don't speak. But beyond that, we're seeing some of the young people are coming in looking and trying to find direction in their lives. They kind of figured out that, what they want to do to make a living, but they don't quite know how to live in a larger sense. So we do it like most conventional churches. We have variations in music, everything from a traditional choir to inviting artists in that come in from different musical genres. But that's the challenge for all religious facilities nowadays, and as you're pointing out, even in your area, to try and attract young people.
Yes.
To kind of begin to understand that, here's a side of your existence that you need to attend to.
We have monthly meetings, and most of the people in attendance are middle-aged and older. We just don't have a whole lot of young people. Now, we've got over 600 people on our mailing list, people who said, put me on your mailing list. we don't know what their ages are. That may be where the young people are, but they're not the ones coming to our meetings. Do you have the same experience, or are you getting young people coming to your events?
More and more young people with the Buddhist monks. There were lots of young people. And it's starting. I think once we're advertising more and with the media and so forth, they're seeing we're there, and I think we are what the younger people are looking for. My 22-year-old niece who lives with me wants to start coming, and I mean, it's just an example when they hear like yoga. The churches are emptying out, the traditional churches, but the yoga centers are filling up. So once they realize that there's more than just traditional dogma, they do tend to show an interest.
Well, that's good to know. And I suspect that we have a lot more young people, even in this city, who are atheists. But it just isn't a part of their life, Their attention is somewhere else. But when you talked about having to re-educate young people, and you mentioned writing, all they know how to do is print in bold capital letters.
Or text.
They can't do what do you call
Cursive,
it? Cursive writing. How are they going? If they get a letter from their grandmother, how can they read it if they can't write it? We have a problem with education, and I don't know how much you or we can contribute to that, but it's something that needs to have something done about it.
Yeah.
We've got just a minute or more left of our half hour, so I'm just going to tell you, if there's anything you want our audience to hear, the time is yours.
Well, I would just like to encourage people to come check us out, because we have so many things going on that there's bound to be something. Just go on our website, which is unityofneworleans.org.
Say that twice so people can write it down.
Unityofneworleans.org. Unityofneworleans.org, because we've got so much on there that they can check out, listen to former truth lessons, which are sermons, and it goes into the ashram in India, for example, from where the Buddhist monks come from. There's just so much they can check out, and then hopefully they'll come check us out at some
Well, that
point.
sounds good. And you have a telephone number?
We do. Not sure what it is right now.
Well,
I've never called it.
all right, I'll
Creatures
tell
of
you.
the social
Your telephone number is 504-899-3390, which is how I called you.
Thank you.
And we talk to each other more than once.
Right.
Well, I would like to say to you folks who are watching us, it's a pleasure to have you here. And please come back again.